Welcome to this week's Dose of Music and Psychology. This week specifically, we're going to be talking about the topic of female rage. And I will be pairing this with the newest album release of Olivia Rodrigo, which is You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. I've been listening to this album so many times, so we're going to dive deep into Olivia's album today and learn some psychological principles along the way. So if this is your first time, welcome to the Muckcast. This is a cozy listen to pair with your coffee. I'm Hannah, a therapist living abroad. I write articles on Medium covering everything from psychology to music and life abroad as a woman. Here on the podcast, I read my articles aloud with a few fresh reflections and insights along the way. So grab your mug, let's get into today's episode. Today, I will be reading an article that I just recently wrote about Olivia Rodrigo's album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. And the article is called Olivia Rodrigo's Female Psychology of Love on female rage, emotional dichotomies, and rewriting the scripts of femininity in a patriarchal relationship. Part one is the ands of the album, which means we're going to be talking about emotional dichotomies and how these emotional dichotomies are reflected in Olivia's music. The second part is the female story arc, and we're going to be discussing how female stories are being told. All of this is going to lead us into part three, where we're going to be talking about the biology of love and how all of this plays into her music. And finally, we're going to be diving very deep into female rage, because I think female rage is such a big buzzword online. So many people are talking about it, but nobody's going in depth with it. How this podcast works, if this is your first time, is I'll be reading the article that I've already written over on Medium. You can find the link down below if you want to read it yourself. You can make highlights over there. You can leave comments. And I think it's just a great one-stop for all of the links that I'm also going to be putting here. I would say thank you to everybody who's coming back, because I see my stats. Some people are coming back every week, and I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming back. And without further ado, let's get started. I will take on my preparatory clever girl glasses, because isn't there anything more beautiful than pseudo-intellectualism? Doo-doo. I'm ready. Are you? Another Friday, another album release hot pot on Spotify, and another girl singing from the top of her lungs as words funnel the frustration with the world into a microphone. The work of months in production, mastering, and songwriting just to capture for each of us and eternity that being in love is still difficult in 2026. Of course, I'm talking about Olivia Rodrigo and her new album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. The album with a title so long that it's not just an act of defiance against always having to use 4-letter titles for albums, but also it just seems funny for every commenter to struggle with how long this title actually is and yet do the musicality of it justice. Olivia herself says that she just calls it love for short, so that's what I'm going to be doing. But isn't it silently ironic that something so simple as love, which has been written about and mulled over in music for decades, centuries even, should require such a long title? Hasn't all there is to be said about love been said before? Nope, not if Olivia has anything to say about this. I find her new album a truly mesmerizing exploration of what it means to be a woman in love, in the fifth wave of feminism, where independence is as much expected as hyperfemininity. In Olivia's words on her recent interview with Zane Love, she said, "This album is all about the ands." And I completely agree with that. So here I am detangling the strings and threads of the female psychology lessons on love hidden inside her album that speaks volumes about the states of womanhood in 2026. Let's get started with chapter 1, the ands and the album's central theme. It seems the public finds it difficult to integrate two things that can in fact coexist very easily. A young prodigy in her confessional songwriting and a professional who knows the roots that her sonic universe is built on. Olivia Rodrigo is clearly, maybe more than ever, both of these things. The same idea of ambivalence and being about the ands permeates the entire album as she talks about love in a more complex way. I'm an absolute freak for a good oxymoron, and I can see them splattered across the entire album and sonic landscape. Even just reading the song titles, this play of extremes is very evident. For instance, if we take the ballad Honeybee, which is placed as the third song on the album, this song talks about sweet love, and yet she's already bitterly expecting that this love will one day leave, as she sings, "I hope I never see your face going." Olivia herself described this song as a love song that matters, which captures nuance and matured love. This song, this very cute love song, is followed by Maggots for Brains, where she reveals feeling like a zombie as her infatuation eats away at her ability to reason, which there is hormonal evidence for, and we're going to get to that later. I'm in awe over how this sweet song of Honeybee, which is so cute, is followed with something so grotesque as the image of maggots for brains. The final stretch of the album is an ensemble of 3D emotional landscapes as vivid as antagonies can be. In a devastating confession, she asks her boyfriend to love her less, on the song Less, so he won't leave, in a quest to alleviate her suffering. Yet, she discovers that she now has expectations for men on the very next song, which is called Expectations. And this song is not only a banger, but also spells the complications of dependency in love and how growing independent can sometimes be a poison to love, because we start expecting so many things that we are blinded to novelty and blinded to the cuteness of love all of a sudden. Finally, all of it is nothing but cigarette smoke clinging to her clothes as she leaves the relationship and straight up writes into the song Cigarette Smoke that she resents him and she wishes she had left earlier. By using these contradicting emotions within each song, Olivia successfully plays with a truth many women now recognize. The butterflies are mixed with sadness. The rose-colored lenses have a scary blind spot. The fragile balance of independence in a relationship when the script is still written by patriarchy. At this point in the article, I've linked her music video for Stupid Song, which since the album came out is one of the probably the most replayed song from the album. I don't know if you know the history of the album, but basically she first came out with the single Drop Dead, where she's running around Versailles and catches this cute feeling of being in love and falling for somebody almost over the phone because she's stalking this guy over the phone. So the second song is Stupid Song, where she sings about being stupidly in love, basically. And after that comes Honeybee, which is the cute romance, and then comes Maggots for Brains, which is about how she's basically feeling like she's going dumb over this love and how in love she is. And the whole idea of the album is that the first page or the first side on the vinyl is the falling in love process. It's the girl in love side. And then the flip side begins with The Cure, which is the second single. And this is the second side is the one where she kind of talks about falling out of love and ending the relationship. So now that you know the story arc of the album, let's talk about the female story arc. It seems there is a fine line upon which womanhood is divided. Fiercely in love or fiercely not in love. The character arc of women always goes either from a bad love to the freedom of independence or from the illusory freedom of independence towards the haven of love. We're still learning to write narratives that center female growth with a side of love instead of the relationship being the main point of the debate. Discussions such as the one around The Devil Wears Prada 2 and the role of the main character's lover prove that. If you've missed that part, when The Devil Wears Prada 2 came out, I think in April this year, people were discussing why does the main character need a boyfriend? Why does there even need to be a side of love to the story? If this is a story about women being strong characters, like why do we need the main character to have a boyfriend? Why is that even part of the discussion? In a way, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love plays with this narrative structure. The album goes from stalking a man on the internet in her bedroom in Versailles, in Drop Dead, to a woman who resents the smell of cigarette smoke on her clothes in Cigarette Smoke at the end of the album. As she prays cathartically in the slow faded outro of the album, tell me something honest, so the memories go dark, the memories go dark, the memories go dark. She repeats this over and over at the end of the album. I guess the good old rule, the safest way of being is being over, which is a citation from Viktor Frankl, applies here too. There's a sense of cynicism and delusionment written between the lines of this album. Instead of ending the entire album on a song of liberation and independence, as it's mostly done, the second half of the album seems to lament over her own brain's inability to just be as strong as the women on TV. In the lyrics, I hear a woman grappling with her own need for love and the constraints that patriarchy puts on her ability to both love freely and feel free. Now let's get into part 3, the biology of love. There is also a biological layer to love which Olivia, maybe more or less accidentally, captured on her album. It is clear from the structure of the album that the longer the sonic ride continues, the more disillusioned and out of love the main character becomes. This is also in line with the research on hormones and how this might affect women's and men's ways of falling in love differently. The main mechanism that I find mirrored in Olivia's journey of audible confessions is the interaction of oxytocin and vasopressin. Let's dive into these two hormones specifically. to understand the experience of love and then female rage later. Oxytocin is sometimes considered the love hormone in women, which is activated by nothing less than physical touch. It's like a crashing wave that hits you in the face and lends you those rose-colored lenses that people are going on and on about. Or in Olivia Rodrigo's case, she sings about having maggots for brains, which is basically the same principle but described using a different metaphor. But the thing with oxytocin is it's over very fast. As a whole, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love captures the timeline of two things co-occurring: innocent love and a woman trying to cut through the jungle of her own brain's auto-reactions. Tunes such as Stupid Song and You Plus Me Is Love shows the singer falling in love, but there's an undertone of not being dumb enough to forget other factors that are within the equation. As a disillusioned woman of the 21st century, a weekend of rose-colored lenses is about as much as one can safely allow herself before your friends remind you to keep your shit together. The irony is that while women have ticking time bombs of oxytocin waves built into us, we're also the ones who are more at risk when we do fall. We are vulnerable to the men and drugs inside us, which makes grown women naturally cautious. Eventually, we often start mistrusting ourselves, because how could we not, given the hormonal cocktail we carry around us for a lifetime? But men, on the other hand, build their love hormone, vasopressin, over time and steadily. Vasopressin is sort of a habitual hormone that is often reported to build up heavily until around week 8, or that's just what research is saying, of constant exposure. It is more like a tide, where floods hide everything in comfortable dullness, but once the woman becomes absent, the water ebbs away, and the rigidness of the previous life becomes more evident. You can hear vasopressin on Olivia's album in the song Less, where the man loves her so much, he, as she says, does the noble thing and opens up the door, as she sits there crying. Notably, he doesn't know what to do about her crying. Maybe because of patriarchy, because it prevented him to develop the vocabulary he needed to help her out emotionally, or because his vasopressin prevents him from loving her less. Nature has humor, as it seems, because the idea of needing physical touch is strongly written into the male script of patriarchy, while the obsessively attached or anxiously attached woman is written into the role of the woman. Actually, our hormones doom us to do the exact opposite. Oxytocin and the following post-sex clarity might be why female rage is built different. And this is where we finally get into Chapter 4, the complexity of female rage. Female rage is a recent favorite online buzzword, but I find that rarely do people do it justice. At least not in its full capacity, as Olivia Rodrigo has done in her album. The idea of female rage is often found amongst the lines of fierce womanhood, feminism, hyper-independence, and women being better after than in love. Basically, has become the favorite search term of those who cannot accept that love is part of the female lived experience, and who can't resist the urge to go either all in or all out. Siren or lover girl, light fairy or dark witch, in love or in rage. Again, womanhood is divided along this razor blade of love. Female rage is cynical and self-destructive, and in a way it demands rebuilding, and thus it's as much healthy as it is unhealthy. Female rage is not there after a breakup only. A perfect example of female rage is the single Drop Dead, which is not an artifact of oxytocin because she hasn't met the man yet, but rather it's sort of female anger that often is used under a different term: cuteness aggression. Cuteness aggression is the feeling of needing to knead a cat's fluffy belly to make you press your molars together until a certain pain point is reached. Or it's the feeling when you see a guinea pig chewing carrots, or anything and everything that fits in the baby schema of our human brains. Let me help you feel your own cuteness aggression in 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry, I love this little hamster a little bit too much. I also have the hamster picture in the little article, because what is cuter than a hamster with a broken arm? This is not just happiness, it's fiercer. It makes you want to scream, but also just cuddle. This is a very specific category of female rage, and while clearly men can feel it too, it is something that patriarchy codes as feminine. It sits firmly within the anima of our psyche, which Jung, a famous psychologist, also characterized as the female part of your psyche. To me, this is the feeling that Olivia sings about when she runs through the Palace of Versailles, obsessing over a man she likely hasn't even met before, as she literally gets the zoomies in her pajamas running through the entire palace. So this is type 1 female rage, cuteness aggression. Now let's get to type 2. But there's also the antagonist of cuteness rage, which is the sexy rage that overcomes the album upon entering expectations. That's why I love expectations so much, because I love this second kind of rage. This is not a zoomy sort of rage, but rather the feeling of moving deliberately and moving slowly and obsessing over yourself. This is a very unique rage that puts women at the epicenter of their own universe, and it makes you feel like you want a man to beg on his knees for forgiveness. I call this rage the burlesque rage, because without fail, this movie's soundtrack will always give me this sort of unprompted, fierce feeling that is anger, but yet also an intense feeling of confidence. It is almost the revenge for all the self-loathing and body shame and questions that women have to face daily, merely for existing. If you play the burlesque soundtrack just below the threshold that your headphones deem healthy and focus on the song A Guy Who Takes His Time specifically, you will feel this anger. You will feel this kind of rage. Or you can loop Expectations from Olivia's album to get the same effect. Burlesque rage. This is the one that people think of mostly when they talk about independence and female rage. But I argue that it's only one color of a whole palette, and Olivia has painted them all. So the second type is the one that most people talk about, the sexy type of rage or female rage, the female rage that rebuilds you after a relationship. Let's get into female rage number 3. Female rage number 3 is the type that makes you lose control and spiral because women in anger aren't just hot or cute. This type of rage makes a man start a fist fight over his own desperation with himself or spiral out of control, and nothing but physical expression can save him. But patriarchy says that women don't punch a hole in the wall upon being triggered. We are left with nothing but internalizing that rage. Women talk about it, or we write about it, and Olivia wrote The Cure and begging about it. The Cure is clearly a woman angry into desperation at herself for being so delusional. A woman in a fight with herself as she cannot externalize because it wasn't written into the script of her gender. So she inks it out on a page and she cries, I'm quoting, "And my head is full of poison and my heart is full of doubt. I got toxins in my bloodstream. You tried hard to suck them out." And it's important that she releases this anger even if it's not in a boxing match, because the only other way to deal with this sort of rage is self-harm, and that is a route too many women are taking. So as painful as The Cure might sound, because the thesis of a woman never healing themselves from their own dependency rings so true, this also makes it necessary to release all the emotions that are bottled up inside a girl. Because if those emotions stay bottled up, they can only ever become a bomb. The accountability of these words and allowing both pain and love to coincide is ironically the antidote, not to hurting, but at least to the self-destruction of anger within women. Maybe the script of women in patriarchy and love in all its doe-eyedness doesn't yet accommodate for many ands. But I'm happy that female musicians these days are rewriting the rules song by song. Olivia Rodrigo definitely did this in You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. This album explores not merely the extremes and the outskirts of the female lived experience, but it documents the ebbs and flows in between, catching glimpses of love, hormonal tides of attraction, and the pain of rage, and the disillusionment that comes with being a woman in 2026. It shows that being in love is fundamentally also a sad thing when parties are not equal. Ironically, Olivia herself says that this album to her is about hope. So I choose to hear anger and cry for equality in love, which shows that at least there is beauty in pain as much as there is sadness in love. And that is it for today's episode. I just want to give you my top five songs from this album at the end. So definitely Cure is one of my top 5 songs. Expectations is on my top 5. Honeybee for everybody who needs something cute but sad. I also really, really love Stupid Song, is really, really good. And I think Begged is truly, truly underappreciated. And with that, I want to say thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this podcast. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for leaving any comments. Thank you for hitting like and subscribe. You can read more of my writing on Medium at Hannah's Cafe, or you can hop over to my Instagram, which is also Hannah's Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the podcast. I hope to see you soon over a nice cappuccino in another episode. Thank you so much. Hope to see you back at Hannah's Cafe. Bye bye.